All right, a happy Thursday evening. Hopefully, everyone is doing great. We've got another team eliminated. The Milwaukee Bucks, for the second year in a row, are eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. The Milwaukee article's up. The graph on Milwaukee, we call it the quick hitter graph, is up on Twitter or X. On my Instagram page, the Bucks offseason article is written. What do we say about Milwaukee? Well, first, availability matters. Certainly, when you don't have, a top three or four player in the NBA like Giannis, you are staring at defeat. Certainly, did you think you were going to get your doors blown off in Game 6? Especially with Damian Lillard back. I didn't think we saw that coming. But here we are, another offseason, talking about Milwaukee as far as what direction they go here. They've got two picks, the 23rd pick in the draft, which is New Orleans, which was the pick swap. They moved back 2 slots, and they either have the 33rd or 34th pick in the draft. That was from Portland. That will be determined the day of the lottery on May 12th. They've got 2 value picks there. That second-round pick is considered a late first. Your free agents are Malik Beasley, Jay Crowder, Patrick Beverley, Danilo Gallinari, Thanasis, and Ty Washington. Okay, those are all the guys who are on minimum contracts. And literally, we start the article. What's the state of the roster? Expensive and fragile. I would not expect another knee-jerk reaction like we saw last year when Mike Budenholzer was fired and Adrian Griffin Bud was fired. Adrian Griffin was hired. We saw the Lillard trade, trading out. Certainly Drew Holiday trading out Grayson Allen, the guy that we often forget about, who was good for Milwaukee here. I would not expect a knee-jerk reaction to this roster. They're similar in a situation where Phoenix is, for better or for worse. They are married to this roster. That is the reality where Milwaukee is. We can use the Giannis excuse all we want. I think you have to look at the body of work with Doc Rivers. 17 and 18 after Doc took over. 18th in offense, 15th in defense, 5 and 11 in clutch games. But as I said, availability matters. Giannis, Lillard, and Middleton played only 8 games together with Rivers as the head coach. They were 3 and 5. Under Adrian Griffin, with those 3 players on the court, they were 25 and 9. 758 minutes. Availability matters. It's hard to evaluate a roster with those 3 players when you have an 8-game sample and a new coach you hired in late January, and the championship or bust mentality that this roster was built on. Certainly when you went big swinging with the Holiday trade and you go out and you fire your coach, who was 30 and 13 at the time. The goal is not to lose in the first round of the playoffs. And I know there was no Giannis, but here is your character defects of where your roster is. And I think what you saw in the Indiana Game 6, you were exposed mightily, certainly from a bench standpoint here. And that's kind of where we're going to go as far as your offseason priorities. Your roster right now, and I said, you leveraged the future with the Lillard trade and then confirmed it was a championship bust season when Griffin was replaced with Rivers. Because of the trade, Milwaukee does not control its own first-round pick until 2031, and have $152 million committed to Lillard, Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez next year. You are an apron team. You are a second apron team right now. For the 5th straight season, Milwaukee is projected to pay the luxury tax. You are a repeater tax team. You have $183 million in salary, 12 over the tax threshold. You add the Middleton bonuses, unlikely bonuses. Once you fill out your roster, you will be a second apron team, barring a trade to clear salary. You will not be able to aggregate contracts. You cannot take back more money in salary. You will not be able to send out cash. Your trade exceptions are frozen here. you are basically, if you want to go out and send Lopez, you cannot take more money back. Same with a guy like Bobby Portis. You cannot combine Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez to go out and do a deal. That will trigger certainly the where the apron rules are. You are married with your roster as far as from a financial standpoint. Certainly getting 2 draft picks will help. You are able to move that draft pick. We'll go into the equity standpoint as far as draft equity standpoint in a minute here. But these are the restrictions. This is another one of these teams, as I said, and we're going to talk about probably the Clippers on Friday night if they lose in Dallas. And yes, we've got the Clippers offseason article ready to go. These are Phoenix, Milwaukee, the Clippers. We said it all along when they made the trades. It was like people going to the buffet line at 11:50 at night, and the buffet closes at midnight. Everyone stuffed their face trying to get every transaction in before these new apron rules came in. And certainly the Lillard trade confirmed that. That trade would not have been allowed under the new rules that we are right now. And as much as Lillard gave you a little bit of a shot in the arm in the first round and missed a couple games here, the reality is that you are married to the 3 years that is left on Damian Lillard's contract here. Your top front office priority, okay? You are likely going to lose Malik Beasley, Jay Crowder, and Patrick Beverley to free agency. The most you can offer them is $4 million, 120% off the minimum contract. How do you replace 23.5 points and 110 starts when you're in a second apron? Depth. Young players. Your 2 draft picks here. You are going to have to figure out how A.J. Green and Marjon Beauchamp and Chris Livingston and Andre Jackson and your draft picks, how 3 out of those 6 players become rotational players, 15 to 20-minute guys. That is your priority in the offseason. You can continually play the minimum chair, I call it musical chair of minimum players. You can go out and do that. You can go out and keep on signing minimum guys. And then a year from now, when we're doing a video about Milwaukee in the offseason, I'm going to be giving you the same exact spiel about the priority of developing your young players to have a bench. If you want further proof, look at where Indiana is. And I know T.J. McConnell was a free agent signing, but they have some young players on that bench that have Aaron Nesmith, for example, who they got in a trade from Boston. Young players matter. Getting guys on 3 and 4 year contracts matter. Consistency matters. And I think that's where Milwaukee is, where the focus has to be. The extension candidate to watch is certainly Bobby Portis. He's outplayed his contract. I put the graph out there, and Milwaukee fans like, get him out of here. We don't want him anymore. Certainly 3rd and 6th man of the year. His $12.5 million salary is below the non-tax mid-level. He is eligible for 4 for $79. If he does not get an extension, he will be an unrestricted free agent. He's got a player option, which he would likely decline in the offseason of 2025. The other player that's got an extension is Pat Connaughton. Team needs, certainly prior to Game 6, because he was not great, the playoff version of Chris Middleton and bench depth. That is kind of where you are, team needs. Future draft assets. You can trade your 2024. You can trade your 2031 first-round pick starting the night of the draft. You owe New Orleans a top 4 a pick. If it's in the top 4, goes to New Orleans. 5 to 30 goes to New York. That's in 2025. The Pelicans have the right to swap first in 2026. They have an unprotected first in 2027. That's from the Drew Holiday trade. It was worth making the trade. You won a championship. Do not complain about draft equity. Portland has the right to swap in 28 and 30. That's from the Lillard trade. Portland will also receive a 2029 unprotected first, and you only have 1 second-round pick to available. That is in 2031. That is the state of the roster in Milwaukee. It feels like all these teams are kind of clumped together when we're talking about Phoenix, when we might be talking about the Clippers, these high-paying teams that went all in the offseason. Boom. Season's over.